Motivation of this project, which has the acronym BE-PARADIS or BE-PARADIS, is speaking for itself, of course, and it's one of the pleasant things to looking for acronyms if you have to enter a funding proposal. Pleasant or also tedious, but so BE-PARADIS comes from the Belgian Paradox of Inequality Studies. And the paradox itself is evident. It's based on the observation that many of you who are interested in inequality, I presume, maybe have experienced already. That is that if you look at official statistics of inequality, we are speaking about inequality, not about poverty, let alone about welfare, that in general we find statistics which are low compared to other countries. And also that they are rather unchanged over the last decades. I will show you that with the graph of the OECD. By itself, it's remarkable, the last 20, 30 years, that the OECD has moved so much in the direction of also publishing and doing research on inequality itself, thanks mainly to the general director, I think, who retired now, Guria. But so every 5 years, more or less, they had this kind of reports. And they also have on their website the statistics on inequality, shares, Ginies, and so on. This is the evolution of the Gini between, so the red rectangles are the earliest observations, 1985. That's the average for OECD. The blue dots or circles are the latest available. That's more or less 2015, 2018. You see that on average, inequality has increased. It's measured by the Gini coefficient here. In many countries, it has increased, notably, of course, the UK, the US, but also Sweden is a notorious case of increasing inequality. And then you have Belgium here. That's what you mostly find in official publications. Belgium, inequality is low and quite stable as measured by the Gini coefficient of the standard datasets available, which is mostly, as Koen will at length discuss, based on disposable income. But on the other hand, this contrasts first with findings of other OECD countries, as you saw on the slide, but also with the appreciation in the public debate or the statements made in the public debate, certainly in discussions. We all know that inequality is increasing. This kind of statements, and I've listed here some of them. Toon has put them on a timeline. So this is from the standaard, Belgische inkomenskloof wordt groter. So the gap between poor and rich is increasing repeatedly, ever increasing, measured by the Gini coefficient. There is an exception here. That's the Tate. Belgium escapes the increasing inequality. That's from 2011. And then you have nearly the same title. Belgium does not escape increasing inequality. So, and that's also a series of the standard where they used the fiscal data to do an analysis themselves on the fiscal data. So it's a bit confusing, the image. So in the public debate, most people take for granted that also here inequality is increasing. We don't find it in the statistics. And that was the motivation to write this project, which has as main well, the two axes to work on. It's first understand what is going on, deepening our insight in the data which are used, the metrics which are used to make these statements and where they do come from. And of course also, because it's an academic project, performing some additional analysis. So what we do in this first branch of the project is using existing data sources, but also filling the gaps with additional data, making links between the data sources on distribution. And then the additional analysis, that's the second part of the project, but this is a workshop halfway the project, so we started 2 years ago, just as Corona started. So our first meeting was the last one before the lockdown in March 2020. And so what we are reporting on is in fact the first 2 years. This is mainly what we will do in the second half of the project. That's identifying the drivers of the changing distribution, but also enlarge and deepen the conceptual framework for the distributional analysis by, for instance, looking at intra-household inequality, by other aspects of which you will see already something today on housing, and this kind of things. So what I report on today is mainly on the first part, that is trying to make sense of the data, harmonizing, linking them through time, and so on. That means, and this gives me the opportunity to introduce also the three teams. Some of you who enter projects know this kind of sheets in which you show how you will progress through the work packages and through the different semesters of the 4 years of the project. You see the three teams here. That's ULB with Paula Gobbi leading the project together with Michael Castanera, Bram, he's here in front, and Glenn Magerman. Then you have the University of Antwerp, the specialists in the micro data sets, certainly in the historical ones, which is led by Koen, who will be the first speaker, Koen de Kank, and also Gerre Verbist and Sarah Kuipers. And then we here, who also work with the micro data sets with several researchers. And so what we do now is reporting on this part of the project. And as you see, this is mostly trying to make sense of the data, but of course we present them in the kind of output metrics like shares of income, Gini coefficients, and so on. So that's not the program for today, but the place of what we present today in the whole project. We hope, of course, to welcome you in 2 years' time to show you more of this one here. So now I give the floor